Cloud computing is everywhere. You definitely use it without knowing.
We'll give a proper definition of it and see how it imbricates with blockchain technologies.
Or how to create a viable governance model.
That's what you'll learn today.
Stay tuned.
Cloud computing is basically on-demand availability or access to computer resources, especially talking about storage and computing power without direct interaction from end user with hardware. So basically, instead of having in-house computing resources, you rent them through cloud. Big players have their data centers spread all around the world for different purposes, to be compliant with local regulations, for latency issues, and so on. And obviously, as an end user, you need to know, at least have a slight idea of what you're using. So just to be sure that, for example, if you're renting some sort of instances or computing resources, just so you know what kind of resources do you need to rent in order to not rent the resources that do not have enough power or to overpay for something that you really don't need.
There's definitely more than a few applications that I'm using that is using cloud computing, especially cloud computing with HPC.
Yes, first I would just quickly reflect on what you just said. This cloud computing cloud computing systems actually open doors for development of completely new models of serving and consuming services. Now you have models like software like a service. So basically, I don't know anyone who has, for example, HubSpot or any of the CRM or any similar systems that you're using. You are not actually downloading it to your own device. Everything is done through computing. Just for example, you have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, you name it. Everything is consumed as a service. Going back to your question regarding high performance computing, it's basically just a special kind of cloud computing or computing in general, where we are talking about supercomputing. So computing power is way bigger than what you have on your laptop or PC. For example, if we're talking about one use case of rendering, in order to render 90-minute footage of animated video, maybe How to Train Your Dragon or Monsters, if you want to do it on your very good home PC, would take you years, but I'm talking about 1,000 years because of all the layers or all the graphics and everything. With high performance computing, it takes maybe weeks, depending again of complexity. But this is kind of computing power we're talking about there. And high performance computing is actually what drives development now in technology, science, because of the huge amount of data that needs to be analyzed now and complexity of this kind of calculations. So artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, you name it.
So you described very well what's the cloud computing. I have a question for you with regard to actually, what would you say is the advantages? Because even though it seems a technology that everyone kind of use in its day-to-day life, it seems that, it's kind of a cloudy word. Sorry for saying that, but it's kind of blurry exactly, where is the cloud? Even though we kind of hear it around every corner and every lips. The banking industry especially is more and more moving towards the cloud. We had like several positions from association in Switzerland, for example, but anywhere else also about the cloud and the security. What would you say are the advantages of being on the cloud, and who do you talk to when you're on the cloud?
Well, I would say that cloud computing is maybe a standard now. So it's not everyone is doing it. So it's not new methodology or anything new. It's been new for like 20 years ago. So yeah, I mean, cloud is everywhere, I guess, now. So everyone is using. There are many reasons. First of all, I think that most important one is cost. So instead of having in-house huge data centers, depending on your needs, but instead of having them in-house and then having dedicated personnel to maintain, and then additional costs regarding electricity, cooling, depending on what kind of data center you have, then you need maybe dedicated room because of the cooling, you need ACs or water or immersion cooling. So all of this is just complicated. If you're a bank, why would you need that? You just go to compute provider, you make a deal with them that fits your needs.
What do you think are the current challenges in the cloud computing industry?
Many. So I can start with most maybe important one, especially if we're talking about blockchain or in the context of blockchain, and that is centralization. At this moment, compute industry is centralized in only a handful of players. So just put things into perspective, 70% of cloud computing industry is controlled or dominated by only 5 players. And to just add to this number, 62% of cloud computing industry is ruled by 3 players. So this is oligopolistic situation that we have, and it's not sexy by any means. And this centralization would not be as huge problem if those companies would show some interest in transparency, fair pricing, providing sustainability as it is. But again, going back to blockchain case, just for you, I don't know if you knew, but around 33% of Ethereum nodes are run on AWS alone. And the governance is also centralized. So you have very small, either 3 people or just 3 small groups of people that can change or have huge impact on industry. So basically we are one or few decisions away from more restrictive environment, bans, more controls, less control over your data, and that this is completely against this new open mindset that comes with blockchain. And then to add to that, I can continue. As I mentioned, transparency, so in sort of pricing, but also where compute is happening and how everything is happening, plus vendor lock-in. And just imagine a situation, you are a startup, you have a runway another, 24 months, and you used all the credits, free credits. You had really nice packages those guys have for startups. They lure you in, and the service is okay. But then you are in a situation you need to use their service, but you need to sign a contract for 3 years while your runway is 24 months. So you, aside of all the stress that you have in order to develop your product and go to market, this is just top of it. Like, okay, now you're signing contract for 3 months, for 3 years, and you have like 24 months that that you can operate. So and it's not inclusive, it's not open ecosystems that those.
So there is a big tension between people who are willing to actually provide complex services that need like a big computing power to do so, and also big company in the monopoly. That's very interesting. Maybe how do you solve that? How do you see the future in this regard? Knowing that you have a company doing what you do, you enter into this business. What is the perspective then? You're fighting a monopoly, if I understand.
Yes, well, true, but in my opinion, it's not simple, it's not easy, but it starts with a choice. So instead of fighting windmills endlessly, you ditch this ego-tripping centralized systems, and you build a new system that is actually beneficial to all participants. You build a network of very powerful high-performance computing, grid of high-performance computing clusters. You bring in all the providers, so you are a place where demand and supply meet. You build the environment where, for example, AI engineers, builders, anyone who needs this kind of service has everything they need to develop their product. So they have all the applications they normally use, they have optimized hardwares, and they don't need to do any additional tweaking of the hardware, and then they can go. So you save time and hustle, and they're ready to go. And you do it in a sustainable way.
My question now is, how does blockchain fit in this story? Like we know that blockchain cannot store huge files, so it's hard to put lots of data in the cloud through blockchain. What is the role of blockchain for DeepSquare?
Yes, so actually blockchain fits in perfectly into the story. As I said, so we are building a grid. Our ecosystem relies on a grid of compute providers. In ideal world, those partners would behave properly. You wouldn't have a need to control, but we all know that we're not living in an ideal world. So in order to deliver on decentralization and transparency, we are actually developing a set of protocols, payment protocol, governance protocol, and compute protocol, in order to make sure that all the players within the ecosystem are actually playing by the rules. So for example, if I send my workload to your machine, let's say you are a tier 2 cloud provider, grid partner, and I send a workload to your grid, I can check, because it's on blockchain, I can check that my workload was run on a proper machine and that I'm paying actually for what I used. Just to make sure, or to clarify, compute is off-chain, but the protocols are on-chain. So the interaction is on-chain.
So it's mostly about the governance, about the fact to create check and balance, thanks to the blockchain, with regard to having a system that actually changed the rules, because you use the blockchain
exactly.
to actually
just to make sure that all the players are
have your
playing by the
philosophy
rules.
embedded in it.
Very simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you issue your own token? Do you have like an economy based on tokens also?
Yes. So we have one token. And there is a legal rep of it. So basically, there is utility side of the token, and there's this asset side of the token. Utility will be used obviously for transactions within the ecosystem.
Thank you for all your great answers, and I'm thrilled to see how DeepSquare will develop. I think you guys have an amazing project, so congrats on that.